Hello and welcome to the show. My guest today is Melissa Tori. She has an incredible story. I didn't mean to make that rhyme. She has an incredible story. Over the last 11 years, she's lost 195 pounds. She just reached her goal weight 2 months ago. She shares with us the turning point, the exact moment when she decided to take control of her life and her health. She also shares with us all of the gifts that have come since making that decision, including a new book that will come out later this year. Hello, Melissa. Thank you for being here on the show today.
Hi, Lisa. Thank you so much for having me.
My goodness. Okay, so we have a lot to unpack here, but I want to first congratulate you. 2 months ago, you reached your goal after 11 years on this journey of losing, tell me, 195 pounds.
195 pounds.
Incredible. Incredible. Congratulations. So I want to go back. There's a lot we want to talk about. And you and I talked before we started recording, so we know kind of the direction we're going in. But I want to start with, where does that weight start for you? Some people say it started as young as childhood. Some people say it happened, something maybe have triggered it when they got older, some traumatic event. What was it for you?
For me, it does go all the way back to childhood. It was a lifelong battle. At a very young age, was child of divorce, latchkey kid, and I used food to cope.
Mm-hmm. So when you say back to childhood, so I mean, losing 192 pounds, what was your highest?
My highest weight was recorded weight was 320. Okay. I had already worked a week or two before I got the courage to step on the scale. So it was probably higher than that, but that's my top recorded weight was 320.
And so what would you say was your highest when you were a kid using that food for that self-soothing?
It was never that bad. It was always like when I was in 6th grade, I weighed 130. Isn't it amazing how you remember weights from random times? But I just was always chunkier.
Yeah. Yeah. You didn't feel comfortable in your own skin.
Yeah. The weight didn't really start packing on until I was an adult.
Okay. So you got married and, you got married in your first marriage, and that sparked some of that as well. Or tell us what that was like for you as you started to get older and gain more weight as you got older.
So I had in my early 20s, I had lost, let's say 80 pounds. And it slowly, as I got married, I did what I think it's pretty typical people. You kind of take your foot off the gas, you're married, it doesn't matter. And the weight just slowly came back. And then unfortunately, it just wasn't the happiest marriage, in fairness, for either one of us. Mm-hmm. So the weight just continued to pile on and pile on. And then we had some fertility issues, and the drugs you take with fertility issues make your appetite absolutely ravenous. So if you couple that with eating to kind of cope and to soothe the pain, it makes for a bad combination.
Okay. So that marriage ended, and that's when, what happened then?
That marriage ended, and I had to start my life over, and I didn't know how. And so I leaned in as hard as I could, without trying, but as hard as I could, into food to cope with how to live, how to be alone. You live on your own, the silence. Sometimes I used to say I could hear dust hit the floor. It was so quiet in my house if I didn't have a TV going in the background or music or something. And I soothed my way through all of that with food. And there's nobody really there to hold you accountable if you're unable to hold yourself accountable. So if I wanted ice cream, there was nothing stopping me running to the grocery store at 9:00 at night to buy ice cream or chips or whatever it might have been.
I've had a couple of different people on my show over the years who've shared like eating in the car was a big thing, especially if they had families, and that was like the quiet place they thought they could get away with it, and they'd hide the bags and things like that. But when you're home, right, all you got, like you're saying, no one's keeping track except for you, and then you're losing track, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I never kept track, but yeah, and I definitely would hit the drive-throughs, and by the time I got home, it was already gone.
Right.
But
so,
yeah, you did this.
Sorry.
I was gonna say, I didn't have to hide the bags. I just
threw them away. So you went through this pattern for how long?
How long until I kind of had enough?
Mm-hmm.
32. That was 12 years.
12 years.
32 to 44.
And that's what got you to that 320-pound range.
Yes.
Okay. So I want to know for some people, whatever it is, whatever the thing that's causing their body harm, drugs, alcohol, food, whatever it is that's going to shorten your life, inevitably, if you don't make a change, let's just put it that way, and not compare the different ways that we can do that to ourselves. But so for you, you were looking at a shorter lifespan and all the things that go with it. And so what is the thing? Was there a moment that changed it for you? I mean, what is it that broke that pattern? Because it's such an ingrained pattern. It's your whole life, and it's especially, over a decade of this pattern.
I did have what I call my epiphany moment. I did have that.
So a one moment thing.
There was a one moment. I mean, there was a slow burn up to the moment, but there was a moment, and it was quite profound because it was the day after Christmas in 2014, and I was sitting alone with a half a gallon of ice cream in my lap at 10:30 in the morning. I was pouring chocolate syrup into the container and eating it straight out of the container. And I stopped and I was like, what are you doing? You're going to be dead before you're 50 if you don't stop.
And what do you think about that time pouring the syrup over the ice cream? What do you think of, what was it? What had been going on leading up to that? Do you think that was the pivotal point, or can you pinpoint it at all?
I don't know that I could actually pinpoint it. I had just hit where enough's enough. Like, it's 10:30 in the morning. I'm having ice cream and chocolate syrup for breakfast, and I'm in my loneliness and I'm in my despair, and I'm just waiting. I used to talk about how I would just wait for life to get back to normal, because when you're alone during the holidays, you're just sitting and wait. Like, you can't wait for January 3rd to go back to the office and at least just to be back to normal. So I don't know quite what clicked, other than that I kind of realized, like, if I didn't stop, that I wasn't going to make it to 50, or that was my true belief.
Okay.
And I got up and poured the rest of the ice cream down the drain.
Nice. That's good. That's a good sign.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take a quick break. When we come back, I want to talk about the next thing you did, the very next thing you did. Okay, we'll be back. We're talking with Melissa. We'll be back in just a moment. Melissa, we've been talking about your weight loss of 195 pounds over the last 11 years. 11 years it took you to do it. So you were talking about sitting the day after Christmas with a bowl of ice cream, or a half gallon of ice cream, did you say? And the chocolate syrup, and you just said enough's enough. You poured it down the sink. And what is the next thing you did toward your health?
Toward my health. I could barely move. I'm 5'3", by the way. So 320 pounds on a 5'3" frame that's a lot of weight. I started saying, okay, what do I do? I started taking walks around my living room. I would just do laps around my living room, because that was really all that I could do. With effort, of course. Like, obviously I could walk around the house, but with effort, I started doing laps around the living room. And then I got the courage to go outside my condominium and do a lap around my building. That led to going around the whole parking lot. And I just kind of went on from there with walking. And with the walking, everyone was, people were saying, oh, don't do it. It's too much impact on your joints. But I knew that I had to do something. That was all that I knew what to do, was to walk. And I will say that in that part of it, I got stress fractures in my right foot from the walking.
Okay. So here's the thing too, that I think is so pivotal about what you're doing is, you have no idea how to lose weight at this point, right? I mean, you just think, can I just move my body a little more? I mean, you don't understand the need for protein, or making sure your macros are balanced, or, like making sure you're eating healthier carb, none of that. I mean, everyone says, eat your fruits and vegetables, eat protein, whatever, but you're blindly going into this effort and just starting to move your body. So how do you start educating yourself about this long journey ahead? And was weight loss the goal, or were you just wanting to be more comfortable in your body, or both?
It was both. And very truthfully, part of the goal was incorrect. Part of the goal was, I thought that some of my problems in life would disappear if I wasn't as overweight as I was. And that is not true, because, it's a reflection of
how you're feeling about your life. Really.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
It's a reflection of how you're feeling. So definitely, that no problems magically disappear just because you lose weight. Your perception of things might, but that doesn't do that. But you're right. I didn't know how to put together a plate of food. I didn't know how to really do anything.
And how did you start to learn that? Because I think that for people who are watching thinking, okay, well, I need to make a change. And certainly there's more information available, which can be a good or bad thing, right?
Yeah.
About how to go about that than there was back when you started this journey. But, you know, what kind of resources did you utilize and what did you try that didn't work or what did you try that did?
So before this, I had tried several different fad diets, if you will, and I would lose weight and gain it back. Um, because part of it is the nutrition is a very small piece of shedding this amount of weight. I took every available penny that I had to be able to work with a coach, a nutritionist, to help me learn how to put together meals. Because it started really with just changing out, potato chips for veggie straws. And then I kind of just very slowly started cleaning up my diet the best that I could because, I was meeting with someone once a month to kind of go over it, but I didn't to learn. But I did what most people do. It's very common. You don't do it. You don't do what they tell you to do. You don't write down the food. You don't log what you're doing. And there is value in that because when you do log everything in, you can look back at where you went sideways. So if you have an off week, you can go, oh yeah, this, you can make those corrections as you're doing it.
Well, one of the reasons I asked you that question is just in terms of, we have so many resources and hiring someone to help you to educate yourself about that I commend it because I don't think back then there was as much of that. You can go on Instagram now. In fact, because we're talking about this, it's going to show up on our phones, all of, all the weight losses and all the coaches and all the things you can try. And so I think, knowing then that was an investment in yourself, it's certainly an investment I've made in myself in terms of business. Like I've hired business coaches, I've hired different people to teach me how to do different things just to get there faster or to give me insight that I would never have otherwise. And so when you went looking for the people who are looking for that, it's so readily available. What were you looking for in a person who could support you in the way that you hadn't been supported before?
I had begun following a couple of people on social media, and one of them really just kind of spoke to me, and I reached out, and she was willing to work with me because most of them I couldn't afford. So I worked with the person who was willing to help me out.
Yeah.
And work with me and help me get to a certain point. And that relationship lasted. We went from nutrition to, let's just say 4 or 5 years into it, we went to actually doing workouts and HIIT workouts and exercising. So that coaching relationship lasted a decade.
Wow.
Because that was what I needed, that type of accountability to be able to get here.
I met a woman recently who, it was interesting because she was saying she didn't have much of a story. We were at a party, like a football party with friends there, and I didn't know anyone but the hosts. And so I just was visiting with different people and we started talking and she's like, yeah, I don't really have an interesting story. And then next thing I know, I find out that she is a caregiver to her neighbor who is autistic. And when he lost his parents, the cousin said, hey, would you look after him as the neighbor? And you already have a relationship. And she helped him lose over time, because she's fitness and health and nutrition, over 100 pounds. And I'm like, how do you think you don't have a story? Like you could literally focus on helping adult autistic, because one of the things that worked for them, for their relationship, is that he loved structure and tell me exactly what to do. And he liked the spreadsheets and the details and checklists, and it worked for him. He just needed a framework for it. And I'd imagine that works for a lot of people in his position. So knowing what that person needs and like that coach taking a chance on you. I mean, I'm sure you're one of her prized students.
I would imagine so. Yeah.
I would imagine so.
I definitely lost the most amount of weight.
Yeah, for sure. And so what do you think is different now about not having it come back?
I healed what broke me.
Yeah.
I decided to stay on. I got unstuck. I healed my mind. I healed the traumas.
Yeah.
I dug deep into the roots of the problems and worked through the pain.
Yeah. Well, one of the things you said earlier is that nutrition is such a small part of it. And like, obviously a coach would say, well, no, you can't outwork your bad diet and all of that. But what you're saying is this part, without this part figured out, there was no change. It wouldn't matter what you learned about nutrition.
Correct.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I had tried so many times. Like I have lost hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pounds, and I've gained hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pounds. This last 11 years, I shed not only the 195 pounds, but the layers and layers of, I call it my fat suit of protection, but the layers and layers of fat I put on myself to keep the world away, to keep the pain away. Like nobody could hurt me because nobody would want to mess with me. It's such a complete, you get it in your head about things, and losing it, shedding it. If I didn't fix what broke me, it would be back. I wouldn't have gotten here.
Yeah. You wanted to be invisible.
Absolutely. I was invisible. Mm-hmm. I was invisible. And at the same time, I needed to be physically large in order to feel like I was being seen. So it's kind of that catch-22.
Yeah. That's a hard balance to figure out, but you did. Yeah. Okay. I want to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll finish up. I have a couple more questions for you. We'll be back in just a moment. Finishing up our conversation, Melissa. So one of the things I wanted to talk about now is, what is your life now? You talked about, going through with a nutrition coach and then working on to exercise with her and have fitness involved in your life and all the things that help you keep the weight off. But you talk about healing what was broken and you got unstuck. So by doing all of the things, what is your life like now compared to before? So what are some of the rewards for your hard work?
So I'm living my best life, my happiest life, my healthiest life. The key to all of it was learning how to love myself through those pains. In 2022, I was able to leave my corporate job, which is something I dreamed of doing for decades, and start my own business coaching and helping people do the same thing. With that, I have co-authored 4 best-selling books, and I have another collaboration book coming out in May. And then in November of this year, I have my own book coming out where I will be talking about this entire journey and more.
Yeah. So the collaboration books, how far into your journey were you when you started writing those, when you started being part of that?
The first book, I was into my journey about 5 years.
Okay.
And
you wouldn't have been ready for that if you hadn't already been halfway into the direction you were heading.
No. And in fact, I was asked to do it and I said no because I was so afraid. And then they asked a second time. It's like, let's just do it. We'll figure it out as we go. So sometimes opportunity does knock twice.
It does. Yeah. And that's fortunate. So then,
yes.
Yeah. So that's fortunate. So the new book that you have coming out, I mean, congratulations. I think collab books are amazing too, but to get to have your own story and decide how that's going to be told. And I mean, I think you'll uncover even more about yourself, right? As you go through this process, that's part of it, or at least know how to articulate it in a different way. Things might come up for you.
I think so. Yeah. Because I tend to write very deep. So I write very deep and very big. And then from that, I pull the nuggets and the wisdom, but the truth. I kind of call myself a truth teller because it's 100% authentically me and my truths and my story.
I think that I'm the same way. Sometimes I just, someone new. So it used to be that I didn't, like I'd meet a new friend and they'd say, oh, I'm going to read your book. And what I've started doing is saying, no, please don't read it yet, because I wanted to get to know you as you get to know me. Right. When you write a book about some big part of your life that has layers of your life in it, it's just like, it's not a natural volley of getting to know someone. Exactly. And having all the great little nuggets of a story that you want to share and have it unfold. And part of that's, being a public person and being willing to tell your story in different formats. But I do think that, if you're going to do it, then do it, right? Like tell the biggest truths that you can, that you're comfortable sharing with the world. I mean, there's certain things that I've left out of the stories that I've told because they're my business, or they're my son's business, or they're my in-laws business or like my husband's business. Like, you know what I mean? There's some things that I just didn't share. But overall, I feel like if we're going to sign up for sharing our story, then let's tell the story.
100%. Absolutely. And that's kind of what I say when I'm a deep writer. I go really deep, and then there are parts I pull out because some things are just, it can be part of my truth and my story, but it's not my story to tell.
Yeah, for sure. And also, you know, I think too, in your process of writing, like for me, when I write, I don't write in order. I write what I feel like writing. So if I'm having a certain kind of night and there's something that I feel like I want to write about and feel about, and I always think, it's not that good. And then I go back to it a day later and I'm like, this worked. You know, this is good stuff. So we don't ever throw it out, right? I have lots of stuff I've started and maybe not finished, but that's okay. It gets you to the next step.
Absolutely. We're absolutely the same with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm really glad for all that you've achieved. I mean, it's great to get to meet you. We have a mutual friend who introduced us, and I'd love to have you back when your book comes out and like just,
Love that. And
yeah,
if we're speaking about achievements, can I just fangirl for half a second?
sure.
Meet some friends? Really?
Oh gosh, you know, that's funny because that has lasted a very long time, that story. And I think obviously reruns and streaming and all of that. But yeah, that was a good time. I never tire of seeing that. Whenever I see the e-pillow, we're speaking about that I sewed the e-pillow that's on the Friends show in Joey and Rachel's apartment. Whenever I see that, I think about my son when he was little because I sewed that pillow at my dining room table and he watched me. I sewed like 3 different colors. I gave them everything they wanted, lots of choices, just spent so much time on it, then shipped it. It was like a big deal in our house, right? That they might use this. And my son was 4. He was 4 years old. And somehow he caught a glimpse of something that scared him on TV. And we didn't like watch scary things, but I don't know where he saw something. And I'd said, you know, it's okay, buddy. TV's not real. You know, that's not real. And he's like, well, if it's not real, then how come the pillow that was in our kitchen, he called it, is now in our TV? And I'm like, oh, fair question. Fair question. So kind of had to get rid of the whole what happens on TV isn't real. But yeah, I always think of that when I see it on there and just the story that goes behind it. It was a hard time in my life, but it was a beautiful time too. And it holds up. So thanks for that. I appreciate it. Yeah, lots of fun. Okay, so come back when your book is done and continued health and all the good things that are happening in your life. Thanks for sharing your story here.
Thank you for having me. It was very nice to meet you.
You too.